Alright, MA Marignon, this is turn 34, and we're coming off of a bit of a pause, so I've kind of forgotten what's going on. Okay, right, we got our rocks. That's good, although less relevant now, as I recall. I think Ashdod is kind of retreating. Yeah, we don't actually get attacked by Ashdod this turn. That's nice. Now we're doing our construction stuff, which we've talked about. And look who finally decided to show up. Our god arrives a little early, I think, but you're roughly on time. And this is the first time I've done an imprisoned pretender, and you have to play a lot of the game without your pretender. Like, it's a pretty significant choice to go imprisoned. There are a lot of advantages. You know, you get a better bless and better scales, but it's pretty significant. You know, you don't get to have your pretender available. Of course, ironically, because of everything that's happened, we're not quite ready for him yet. We really kind of need construction 6, but he will help us, you know, start to break into other paths of magic while he waits for our infinite fire gems into infinite money plan to be ready. And it looks like Arcosafali is trying to knock Nabah off of, trying to knock Asphodel off of Nabah, just the, you know, madness of dominions. So let's see, Asphodel, yeah, they're a pop kill nation, but rather than skeletons, they get like a lot of these mannequins and like various sort of viney undead, and they have a lot of the same characteristics as a lot of undead, but the big thing is they have these sleep vines, which don't actually deal damage, they just deal a lot of fatigue damage. So, you know, assuming you're not inanimate and you have poor magic resistance, these can actually be really, really nasty. They can put you to sleep like super quickly. Although I think Arcosafali has a stack of elephants, like no help. He's got a Strategos leading him. And like, yeah, no mage support, right? He's not making these elephants ethereal, and like elephants will trample these guys really effectively, but elephants also have really awful magic resistance. So I honestly, I'm not sure. Ooh, with all the centaur, yeah, they're just gonna kill the elephants. Okay, yeah, centaur are really good. These aren't even like the sacred centaur. Yeah, I really like centaur. Someday I will play like a pan or something. Arcosafali also has some infantry. These guys, like, they're fine, but you know, they're not gonna stop like all these centaur. Like, this army is 100% screwed, so that does not work out for Arcosafali, which is probably actually bad news for us at this point. Like, we'll probably fight Arcosafali a little bit, right? We're kind of headed towards their capital, not Nabah, but Arcosafali. But I think realistically they're more or less done, and whereas Asphodel is starting to look kind of dangerous. So here we are attacking out against Bandar, who maybe stays home because I don't see any attacks from Bandar. No, we do not catch his thug. So I guess, you know, he chooses not to raid another one of our provinces with his thugs, maybe feeling like he's, you know, done enough damage. Let's see if we friendly fire one of our knights. I think we do. Oh no, just some damage. So, you know, that's good. He survives. But yeah, we unfortunately do not catch that thug group, so that's sad. And then we catch Agartha clearing out some independents. They are fighting Jotunheim, I believe. Yeah, a bunch of magma children. This is a little scary because these guys don't really have any built-in fire resistance. So they're not going to love this heat aura, and as these magma children go past, like, yeah, it's going to be rough. There's a little bit of Iron Warriors, I guess, just on themselves. He does need them here for the magic leadership, right? And these are the leadership. I think these guys are, yeah, they're magic beings, so they take magic leadership, and this is like, yeah, uncontested, or right, he's just clearing out some independence, so totally fine. Like, yeah, you do see like some of this fatigue, of course, is from spellcasting, but if we look at these guys, like, yeah, they're starting to take like heat fatigue damage. I don't think these guys will be in range of the heat like long enough. Like, yeah, Iron Warriors is solid and a good choice on the Magma Kids because they don't have a lot of protection. Unfortunately, they didn't get themselves with it, which is a little sad because these guys, you know, dudes in robes, they're definitely susceptible to arrows. But like, yeah, you know, cool stuff, like totally reasonable, I think, and works out for him just fine. Very nice. Okay, and then we catch a battle between Eriu and Uruk. Okay, this is just a group of sacreds with one of the cheaper commanders here, no doubt to do a little bit of blessing, and like, yeah, this is uncontested. I think this is on top of the throne, or maybe it was a province that Uruk had raided, not actually sure. Unexpected events, one of which on our capital. That's a little scary. You know, we lose some people to a harsh winter, it happens. We find some earth gems, yeah, in our capital. Very nice. And then there's some trolls. This could turn into trolls attacking us, so maybe we'll have to keep an eye on this, but not too bad as far as misfortune events go, and I'll catch you guys after the cut. Alright, so this is the situation and what we're doing about it. A few attacks this turn, not too many, so we're raiding into Ashdod here. We could potentially raid here. Looks like possibly those Anakites did find some leadership or were led, because they don't appear here. Now there's just a sage. But we might bump with Phlegra, and we would definitely lose to 2 tyrants. I'll probably reach out to this player, and see if I can negotiate for this province. But would prefer to avoid a bump and would like to get my turn in. And honestly, if he takes this province, it's not the end of the world. Would really kind of like to entice Phlegra to attack Ashdod more, because I think Ashdod's in kind of a rough position. We can see they've raided back against Eriu a bit, but there isn't really anything on their capital here, right, in terms of their sacreds, which is pretty much the main thing that they've shown us. They do have their god here, an Archmage, kind of a rainbowy chassis. Pretenders are always dangerous, but rainbows are unsupported, much less dangerous than a lot of other pretender chassis, such as a Bronze Colossus. So yeah, hopefully Phlegra will jump in. It would be better for us if Phlegra grabs more territory versus Eriu, simply because Eriu is larger, although we do see they are still busy with Uruk. Uruk doing a really good job of not dying, so hats off to them. And then of course we are sending our pretender over to site search on top of this throne provinces being a good place to find magic sites. We're also sending one of our architects over there to eventually start upgrading. Of course, we have some money problems as ever. And then our other architect is going to real slow walk all the way over to Mictlan. It would be nice if we had some nature or like some air to give him some mobility boots, or I guess water too for boots of quickness. We don't have any of that research. We also don't have any of those mages or any of those gems. So yeah, it's like a 5 or 6 turn. It's going to be a while, but it's fine. We'll find many things to spend gold on. Speaking of spending gold or struggling to spend gold, like Mictlan's scales are just, like the full magic and the full luck are really nice. A little bit of growth is cool, but like, wow. This makes recruitment really difficult, and they're not dead yet. Their last fort is cracked, so we are, wishing that Xibalba hurry up and take that, because then all these candles will disappear. Although, just in case, we are getting an Inquisitor here, who is a Holy 2, but since he is indeed an Inquisitor, he has that tag. He's much better at preaching down enemy faith. So we'll just have like 1 or 2 of them. They're useful to have around, I think, for Dominion control. But we are mostly recruiting flagellants here because there just isn't really, we need resources, right? This is like the opposite, especially this, kind of the opposite scales of what we like to see. So, we're just getting some flagellants here. They'll be okay, a few halberdiers. We are splitting out a crossbowman raiding force, so we'll see how that goes. It's possible that we bump into his thug group and they'll die. We're sending the rest of the army at his thug group, all the same stuff that we talked about. We're also patrolling here. We dumped a decent amount of PD, so that should at least keep his thug somewhat busy, while we try to soul slam. So if he tries to jump on top of our fort, we should stop that. We are building a lab here this turn, in our quest for lizard shaman. So that is where some of our money problems are coming from. We can see that, Bandar still assumedly hasn't moved out of their capital with their giant stack of tiger riders, or maybe he's just using the army size modifier items and doesn't really actually have a giant stack of tiger riders. So we'll see. We probably should move this scout on top to see what's going on, because we do have to be careful about moving into a province bordering that, because this army is much reduced. Like I said, I don't think we want to tangle just yet with one of Bandar's large stacks. We may actually just go after this throne. I'll have to go take a look. I think there's sorceresses here, or I forget. But yeah, we may just choose to go after this throne because, of course, we want to link up with our other army that is formed up and headed out. Not a whole lot to it, right? Flaming arrows, solar eclipse, less crossbowmen, more halberdiers. Not as many knights as I would have hoped. Okay, I realized that I was about to leave half my knights behind. Just, the classic Dominion style errors. Glad I'm going through this turn with y'all. Still not as many knights as I would have hoped for, but a much more respectable number of knights here. We are going to struggle a little bit with blessing. We do not have a divine blessing in this army. We do have a friar who's going to, try to bless everybody up, but realistically, he's not going to be able to quite get enough of this. We're also kind of lacking in gem carriers, so we're having to throw him on a non-stealthy commander, who might just die during the combat. This is not great. We'd like to transition to using our friar as our stealthy gem carrier, and to that end, we are recruiting a paladin here who's hopefully going to join that army. and do some blessing. We do actually have a mobility item, which we grabbed off of Micklin, which is these Boots of the Messenger, but sadly we have to give them to this Grandmaster because Grandmasters are old men and they only move one province a turn pretty much, so if he didn't have those boots, this army would just move here, which would be very sad. So, we were using those boots there to get a whopping 12 map move out of this army, but, with 12 map move, you can sometimes go 2 provinces. And then pretty good feelings, this is a lot of barbarians, but, they're not going to love crossbow fire. Our knights are going to do great in the dark, in the cave. I'll have to try to remember to turn off the solar eclipse cast. It'll be kind of interesting to see if he will cast solar eclipse in the cave or if he'll choose to do something else. So maybe I'll leave it on in the name of science. But after that, we may split out a bit, right, and start raiding. Like we want to take this Arcocephalian territory and basically just kind of draw a rough line around Arcocephali to Asphodel and be like, hey, this is ours. I will probably reach out to Asphodel either this turn or next turn, just to get a sense of how aggressive are they? Are they interested in peace? Do they want to keep pushing? Are they the kind of player that's just not going to respond? We're going to have to deal with Asphodel here shortly. And then we can see the siege is ongoing. I think this is unlikely to ever be broken. We may end up digging out that Nabaa army from Arcocephali, so we'll have to think about that too. There's no crack here on Nabaa either, so that's a good sign. Though we do see another stack moving in. This is mostly just garbage, right? And I think our knights are going to do pretty well against it because I don't think these guys have great attack skills, so our defense should help us and we're going to kill them really quickly. Our magic resistance is not great though, so we do need to be careful about being put to sleep. And then we're trying to get better eyes on this Shiniyama Tianqi conflict, but we don't really have any more information yet. Hopefully we'll have some more next turn. We did actually find, we actually already knew about Fascia's capital. I just missed it. So it's right next to this throne here that Man and Asphodel, might tangle over. We'll see. We also see a Vanheim flag in here, which is a little interesting because, I think Vanheim's over here. So maybe Vanheim and Fascia are fighting, right? And there's some raiding going on here. Not really sure. This definitely looks disconnected, so we may have to dig into that some more. And then of course continuing to try to keep eyes on Ashdod. We've lost track of at least one group of Anakites, so we're trying to reacquire that group. And then this is what's on Machaka's capital. Some stuff. These Machakan hoplites are okay. Ogres and great spiders feel more a bit like a panic summon, but he doesn't really look like he's in a panic situation, so maybe just looking for a little extra siege strength. Speaking of needing extra siege strength, Pangea is still not cracked. There's a decent amount of stuff on this now, and I think this is only this is a regular fortress, not even a castle, so not very high wall integrity. This might be stuffed with Maeneids or something that's causing some trouble here for him to actually break through. This isn't a ton of stuff, and a lot of this I think has only arrived relatively recently, but is kind of actually looking, okay, there's a Bronze Colossus here, right? So probably somewhat safe, but they have no retreat routes now. This is not looking as good for Abyssia anymore, and something else, if we could grab another capital like that would be nice. And then there's a throne right here. So anyway, we're going to continue to keep eyes on that, and I think that more or less covers it. I guess research wise, right, we're looking to finish out construction 6 for the booster and the lanterns, and then enchantment 6, right, for Eternal Pyre and all of our fire gems. And I think that covers turn 34. All right, MA Marignon, turn 35. As ever, I remember nothing. Okay, right, we're raiding. Excellent. Our attacks. And we caught one of Aryu's raids as well. Very cool. And finished some research and construction. Construction 4, right? That's one of the breakpoints for items. We like that, although we really do want 6. But we're on the way. Our site searching does not work out, as ever is the case. So let's take a look at some of these battles. So let's see here. This is in a cave. It's interesting. Ooh, nice. He's got some of these summons. I like these guys. They're not very good, but I just like them. And he's just up against a decent amount. This is probably PD, although Ashdod definitely has been recruiting some Bakemono, and is a little scary, although these elves do have dark vision built in. I don't know if there's any on the Bless. Our commander fellow perhaps failing a bit on the blessing, because he has not hit everyone yet. So I don't actually see any spirit sight or dark vision on this bless, but it's got enough other stuff, and these guys are elves, and these are just, goblins with spears. The dogs, I think, are going to, struggle a bit. That's one of their big issues. They kind of have attack density problems. They're size 3 with just 1 attack. Their protection is like pretty mediocre, but it's kind of hard to buff in a lot of ways because the protection they do have is natural protection, no armor. The skills are quite good, although that's mostly due to this, fairly strong bless. So, are they usable? Yes. And I feel like sometimes this line of nations has a decent number of nature gems. They cause nature gems to summon in, and this is actually starting to look a little scary, right? And it's just the nature of size 1 units. You can pack in so many guys, and these elves are getting a penalty to their stats. Yeah, it looks like they've been routed. Only -1 from the darkness, so that's not that bad. But stacking a bunch of units together to harass down elves' defense is absolutely a valid tactic and worked out here. So that's kind of rough for Ariu. Not the end of the world. He's using one of these cheaper champions to raid, still fairly expensive. So this does hurt. Although he actually only loses one of his sacreds, maybe some losses in the retreats. There were actually some recruited Bakemono here, so kind of nice to get rid of a few of those, as well as the chief, which is important, right, since this raiding group now cannot move out. But overall, I think Ashdod has to be fairly happy about that. Oops. Okay, this is ours. These are our halberdiers moving forward against quite a bit of PD, bit of a PD dump. But this is Deer Tribe, right? I lost my mouse there. There we go. And yeah, I think we should be okay. We don't love arrow fire since we don't have shields, and we don't love javelin fire for the same reason, because we have fairly heavy armor. Yeah, so this is painful, absolutely, and was not intending on raiding with these halberdiers, and it looks like this just barely worked. Not barely, but I think we lose half of the halberdiers, so that's not ideal. Okay, so not half, not the end of the world. That's about 20 PD investment, and a decent attempt. I think about 20 PD, can be kind of nice because it gets you that second commander, which can be a big deal. But investing in Deer Tribe is always a little questionable. It was a fairly obvious raid that we were making, so in that sense, he chose the right province to PD dump in. And speaking of PD dumps, definitely not a PD dump here. So this is just those Jaguar Tribe, which we are recapturing with our crossbowmen. I have faith. Yeah, so thinking 20 crossbows, a little more than 20 crossbows, right? I think we gave a couple as bodyguards. Can take out 1 PD, and then this could be a bump with his thug. Okay, yeah, so this is a PD dump. Okay, yeah, so here we go. Very cool, right? So he's combined a PD dump here, with his thug group. Now that said, we only see one of the thugs here. I'm assuming, this is the fully kitted guy, so this guy's very dangerous, but he only has one buddy here to help him out. Who we are hoping to snipe, but much less likely to be sniped now because, we're going to be distracted by all this PD. Also, weirdly, he has his prophet here, who is just a regular scout. Prophets are always significant because you get the Holy Nuke spell. Of course, we do have, mage support. We have an army here. So, it's really just a question of, can we kill... Yes, it looks like we routed the prophet. Or no, actually, it looks like he's just set to retreat. So... Not sure what the prophet was doing here, but he was not intending to have him fight. We are throwing some arrows into the back, but it looks like, we're not going to get him before the buff cycle goes off, and so now this is starting to look a little more scary. We do have soul slays coming out. This guy is just retreating off. That's part of his script, and now it's just a question of, can we kill this guy? And I'm not sure, right? He's going to be a pain, definitely. You can see, our knights are not doing that great. The morale's a bit of a problem. We have some Oz kicking in. Now we are attempting to soul slay, so this is really just a question of time. 19 magic resistance, so his morale's broken. That's probably actually a HP route due to the PD, possibly. PD counts for less HP, but that was a lot of PD compared to how many hit points this thug has. So while I did like the PD dump, maybe it was too much. You do have to be careful, right, that you don't HP route your thug, which I think is what has happened here, although maybe some soul slays. Nobody likes attempted soul slays. So that more or less works out for us. We don't get anything, right? We just wipe out the PD dump, which is nice, right? That's gold that he doesn't have, and we do it almost for free. We do lose a knight to his thug. And we could see that the thug survived at least one, maybe 2 or 3 soul slays. So More caster support for this army, I think, is going to be important. I do think we would have won out in the end, but it's just a question of like, is our Soul Slay going to get through before our Knights rout due to all the casualties? It didn't really look like the Knights were ever going to be able to do enough chip damage because he's regenerating. So yeah, I think that was dangerous for both sides. Obviously, we take a province, which is nice, and we force the retreat. It's very unlikely that any of these guys die in the retreat. I don't know about very unlikely, but they have good morale, so less likely that they die in the retreat. Although, anytime you're forced to retreat, that's always a little scary, and your stuff gets scattered. So a good result for us. And then we have some unexpected events. So you have some wolves. There's actually a decent chance we'll be attacked here, I think. Maybe put some PD in this province. And then we found some death gems. Very nice. And then we Ashdod, I think, also took some misfortune, or this might be throne related. Just a single earth gnome. I think they can handle that. Okay, he actually has a stack of anakites. Nice. We found the stack of anakites. That is important. So yeah, that earth gnome is screwed. Let's confirm, yep. And then it looks like, yeah, one of our fortresses finished. This is probably the lizard shamans. So yeah, I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. Quite a few interesting things this turn. So I think Ashdod has been given a bit of a reprieve because we know that, Ariu is kind of busy dealing with Uruk, who's just doing an amazing job. Like, this hasn't been cracked. This sort of looks like just a token sieging force. So we're just taking our scouts just back and forth between these two provinces, trying to catch what's going on. So maybe he's focusing on like capturing the capital first. So, Ariu's attention is kind of divided. We do see some raiding deep up here. This was the cave that didn't work out for Ariu. I expect elven flags to pop up periodically, but, the Anakite numbers are recovering, right? So, we saw this group of Anakites here, and of course he's building up some more Anakites in the capital, and then these Anakites maybe are destined for us. This isn't too many, so I think we can deal with these maybe even without the rocks. But so, Ashdod is fighting like 3 people at once, mostly by their own choosing, not Ariu, and actually maybe not Phlegra either. Hard to say. I don't actually know who kicked that off. But, of course, Phlegra has chosen to jump in on Xibalba, right? So we see that this throne is under siege by a tyrant, who's quite powerful and might be a hassle for Xibalba to get rid of. And actually, you know what? We're going to transfer our scout here because that's going to be a more interesting battle. Hopefully we can make it there in time. But, of course, that guy's not going to be able to crack the fort. But it does mean that, Phlegra is going to be kind of busy now. And an interesting choice, he just took Nazca, he won a really good battle. It's possible that Ashdod sued for peace. I'm not actually sure. So regardless, it looks like Ashdod's going to be under a lot less pressure from Phlegra, and unlikely to be pressured. Xibalba, there's no way. They don't even have a border anymore. And of course, Xibalba is taking their sweet time getting rid of Mictlan, which we really do not appreciate because these scales are awful and really cutting into our recruitment. We do have our Inquisitor preaching here. We will bring the candles down eventually, but it's going to be a little while before we completely scrub this area of Mictlan's dominion if he chooses not to assault. And, now that he's getting attacked, maybe he doesn't assault. So very sad about all that. Obviously, we want pressure on Ashdod because, we're the third opponent who is also distracted with other things. So, yeah, I think Ashdod is going to have a breather here. And I was thinking that, we don't really need to worry about Ashdod, but I think possibly all involved parties felt that way and, kind of took their foot off the accelerator. And we're going to probably see some Anakites in our future, but we are prepared for that ish. More preparations are needed, but I have confidence. We are just starting to get witch hunters here since the other thing. We knew about the huge stack of Tiger Riders, but it looks like he's brought in a bunch of his summons now, just a ton of his summons. I think these need astral pearls to bring in, and so early on astral pearls are a bit hard to spend, but later on they're so useful. So I'll double check and see if these guys actually do require astral pearls, but this does feel a bit panicky. I guess like he is kind of down to it. I still I'm gonna send the scout over. Like, what are these indies, right? That he's like, he can't split some of this off to retake it. So we're gonna move our other scout down on top of his other fort. See if he has a giant stack down there. It's gonna be a while before I'm expecting this to move out, right? This is enough stuff. Like, he ought to move out. There's a good chance he comes from Micklin. I think that's probably what I would do. Or maybe this throne, which we are gonna go in on, which is perhaps a bit disrespectful. To this giant force here, but I do think we're going to stack up decently well. It depends on what kind of buffs he has. These summons, they don't really have any armor, so if he can get some protection buffs on them, it'll be a little more rough, but the protection buff he's likely to be able to get on them at this point in the game is like Wooden Warriors, the bark skin effect. And it's not going to be that long before we get full fire elementals, and we can rejigger our research, if we really desperately need to hit full-size fire elementals, who are going to do fantastic against those. So other than the numbers aspect, which of course might be inflated, right? The scouting reports fluctuate a lot, so it's probably not quite as scary as what it looks like. But regardless, I think, if he comes out to fight us, we'll have enough time to react. Unless this force gets if this force gets completely wiped by the throne, which I'm not expecting. Looks like someone may have failed against it, or again, just scout reports fluctuating a lot. I thought I'd scouted this throne, but dug through some of the old turns, couldn't find it. Possibly we haven't seen what's in here. I mean, we do know that there's at least one sorceress, maybe more sorceresses. In a different situation where we had a little more time, I might try to send some of our troubadours to seduce the sorceresses, because that'll help, somewhat with our magic diversity. But with our pretender awake now, and with everything else going on, I just don't think where are we going to make the troubadours from, up in Micklin, and they're going to have to come down. It's going to take a few turns. We could make them here, but of course finally we're getting our lizard shamans out, so absolutely not from this fort. So we're just going to jump in and try to take it. The defenders here are just pitiful. So, there's a decent chance we can just HP route the sorceresses before they do too much. A lot of what sorceresses tend to do, not always, but is elementals. And, other than air elementals, we have good resistances. So our knights should actually be able to cut through the elementals pretty easily. Fire elementals we don't care about. Water elementals we can take down. We're going to have solar eclipse up and flaming arrows, all the normal kind of support. We're also going to probably should switch some of this to falling fires instead of soul slay, just for some AoE damage. But yeah, I think we have enough stuff here. We're just going to be able to roll over this throne. And of course, this puts us somewhat in position, right, to link up with our other army that's moving in against the barbarians. I left solar eclipse on, kind of curious to see if he casts it. This could get a little bloody, would prefer to have a few more archers, but, we'll have 45, almost 50 archers, or yeah, 50, 60 archers against roughly the same number of barbarians, crossbowmen against barbarians, so that'll help a lot. And then of course, our knights are going to do really well in the cave, and the barbarians aren't going to love that, but we may lose a decent chunk of halberdiers, because they're not going to love the cave either. But hopefully, everybody just bumbles around in the dark, right, and the barbarians miss, our halberdiers miss, and then our knights just come in and clean everything up. We definitely will win. It's just a question of how many losses are we going to take, and then from there we'll see, right, if we're feeling greedy, we'll go down into this province, right, to grab this from Arcocephali, and then try to cut all this off, but I'm thinking we probably want to meet up sooner, so we'll probably come here, and then this army might come out to this cave. I haven't reached out to Asphodel yet. I definitely need to do that. This is still not cracked though, right? Nabaa is not cracked, despite there being, quite a huge number of chaff here. Really mostly just chaff, other than the Centaur warriors. They're pretty scary. So it looks like there's at least a decent defense in here, which, should keep Asphodel busy, at least for a turn or two. And then of course, looks like Shiniyama is doing quite well. We see that they have Tianqi under siege and cracked, so we're interested to see what's going on there. We also see another huge stack of Diabakemono, whites, which are pretty nasty. So this is looking fairly scary, and maybe another reason to not kind of thrust ourselves down so much. They can pick up some Arcocephali's territory. They are probably also a little worried about Asphodel, right? So may reach out, to Shiniyama and try to negotiate for this province here, which he probably doesn't know. It's a fort. Everybody wants forts, but he doesn't know that there are, the Amazons there. And we would like some death access, but of course, we're busy trying to lock down Arcocephali. So we'll see if we actually even have any forces, to jump on top of this. May talk to Tianqi and see if we can convince them to evacuate the fort, so we can take it. and they can throw this. But this stuff that he has in here it's going to be a lot better defending a fort, so they probably aren't going to be interested in that. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be difficult to negotiate without loss. We may just go in and take it if we have the resources. It's a nice to have, like not an essential. Honestly, our territory is big enough. We can probably find some other indie that's going to have some death access, or it's not the end of the world, if we don't pick that up. So trying to join our armies together. And then, of course, it looks like Arcosavali also got hit by, a bunch of stack up barbarians. So they are no longer sieging their capital. I imagine Nabaz probably just going to sit in here and let the barbarians exist as cover. Recruitment wise, like full mages this turn, which is really nice. I realized I maybe have made a mistake with the Grandmasters, so I was squeezing out extra Witch Hunters, but of course could be squeezing out extra Grandmasters. It does kind of hurt gold wise, but I think it's probably worth it. So we're probably going to be continuing to do just maximum Grandmaster recruitment out of here, maybe for the rest of the game, certainly for a while. Recruiting a few knights. Troop recruitment is a bit on the lower end. We are upgrading this into a castle, and we'll probably upgrade it into a citadel fairly quickly, because that way we can get even more of these crystal mages who are going to be really useful. They're much better earth access for us, and of course we want them to drop rocks on anakites. So our god is just going to search here. He may hang out on the throne, or he may like teleport out, maybe to this province to help with our dominion spread, and like do a little bit of site searching out here, kind of while we wait for our other research to finish, and then he can do the things that we got him for. And then we are moving a few crystal mages north, right? So we're sending this fellow north, and set him to retreat here. And then we're sending this other fellow north. He's going to be able to do some site searching here, but also, we need him for the rocks and the anakites. And then a bit of troop recruitment on our border, trying to get some more flagellants out. They're kind of free other than gold. Not free, but their resource and recruitment point costs are so low, we can kind of fill out on holy points and like still manage to get some other troop recruitment done. So we're going to start to get like more flagellants who are going to be more useful when we get some more research online and we get like Aerofend up. That's going to help them a lot. So we're starting to reach the part of the game, I think, where flagellants are going to be a lot more useful and crossbowmen are going to be less useful. That said, I do think we're going to want some more crossbowmen for these summons, because like I said, they don't have a lot of protection. So we may slam out some more crossbowmen, and then we're sending a friar out. We're probably going to build an unforted temple here, just because it's pretty centrally located. So, and it's also a barbarian province. So we'll bump up the PD a bit and make it a little more annoying for people to knock it down. It's also going to help like spread our dominion into this area where like it's still kind of marginal, and then we can just start to pop friars out from here. And it's unfortunate because the friars we kind of want to use for scouting and various other duties, so the fact that it's in the middle of our territory is maybe a downside, but it does at least mean that they can, they're kind of roughly equidistant from any of our fronts, so we can send them wherever we need them. And I think that more or less covers it. We can see that Pangaea is still not cracked, so this war is ongoing. We do see Ulm down here, so they border Menchaca, and we're pushing our scout forward to catch some of that, and then still no movement on this throne over here between Man and Asphodel and Phaeacia. And I think that covers turn 35.